Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and thank you for your contributions to the two experts. Now, I need your expertise here. I'm going to tell you a story, which is true, and I need to know how you would analyse this with the backdrop of transparency, anti-corruption, etc., making sure you call a spade a spade. So here, it's a bit annoying for us because we're from the institutions, but we are looking at the husband of Ursula von der Leyen, and he's head of Organesis, an American biotech company specializing in genetic and cell therapy to produce, amongst others, mRNA COVID vaccines. Now, he's now left the Administrative Council, but there were mRNA medicines that were developed in Italy. In Italy, we had the recovery plan, which had a lot of firepower. For the added value for mRNA, they brought together 49 different public companies, including Siena, Modena, Rome universities, some from the private sector as well, Sanofi, BioNTech, but also Organesis. And before the money was distributed, Mr. Ecco von der Leyen in Udine in Italy in March 2021, because of being part of this consortium, he got 183 million euros. Now, on the 26th of October, we heard that he actually resigned from that particular supervisory board, but thanks to the journalists, and thanks to the German journalists specifically, we found out that this company, Organesis, which is in the US, had set up 4 subsidiaries, one in Italy that I mentioned, one subsidy in Greece, where he got 32 million euros with a co-company that he also created. He established a subsidiary in the Netherlands, where he got 1.2 million euros, and a subsidy in Germany, where the CEO of Organesis is still listed as Mr. Ecco von der Leyen. So we put this question to the Commission, and we said, you know, listen, it's a bit embarrassing, because we're talking about European funds. We've got the Netherlands and Greece getting money, and Europe is telling us the fact that the husband of somebody who holds high responsibility in institutions receives European funding doesn't constitute a conflict of interests. Hence my question, because you work in this sector. How can we justify the husband of the President of the European Commission, who actually resigned from the supervisory body in Italy only, but remained in position in Germany elsewhere, and is getting European money? Is it conflict of interest? Is it favoritism? These are just hypotheses. Is it actually a question of capture of European money? I mean, how should I put this? We're not talking about companies who created mRNA. They're basically postbox companies. It's basically companies not just lining their pockets, but taking money away from Europe and taking it to the US. Now, I'm in the Budgetary Control Committee as well. And the committee has said that they're surprised that even in Italy, there isn't a control system to monitor the Recovery and Resilience Fund from the EU. We talk about transparency, and I'm all in favour. We even turn to the European Court of Justice. But in this particular setup, how would you define this?
Coming back to the question of MEP Rivasi, in fact, it's hard. And also, as a lawyer, I try to, refrain of talking about things that I don't have enough data or evidence. But what I want to underline is that these are several things. First of all, the existence of conflict of interest as such is not a good or a bad thing. The conflict of interest can be solved, and the principle here is to make it as transparent as it is. I know I sound a bit boring with bringing the transparency on the table, but the first thing that we should know in terms of the conflict of interest is that it exists. I can also, and I will come back to this specific situation as well, but also what the consortium I mentioned in my first speech called Follow the Money, the journalistic consortium. I also would like to recommend all of you to get acquainted with the project called Recovery Files and the series of really serious investigative journalistic pieces on how the RRF plans and how the RRF spending is taking place and is implemented. One of their fundings was that several consultancies was heavily involved in elaborating the national recovery plans, and some of them also were heavily engaged in accepting the money from the national recovery plan. So, in other words, to perform some activities that were financed from the RRF or are being financed from the RRF plans. So, the conflict of interest is actually seen in more than this one example. And coming back to the transparency and specifically connected with this case, as you perfectly know, there is also the case of text messages or the access to the text messages that were being submitted or exchanged in terms of buying and contracting vaccines. And it is a matter now which lies on the table of the Ombudsman, EU Ombudsman, because the Commission is not really open to show this kind of text messages. And again, this may show the conflict of interest, but it also may show whether the conflict of interest were seen, were spotted, and how we dealt with this. And the final words, and also coming back a bit to my previous or my introductory speech, this kind of the things that you're mentioning, Ms. Rivasi, they are very much connected with the need of transparency of beneficial owners. And with the recent ruling from Luxembourg, it will be much harder to track such examples of potential conflicts of interest. So again, I know it's another topic than yours, but I think also the Parliament has to look really in depth into the works on the new anti-money laundering directive, and to be sure that the information on beneficial owners and recipients, the final recipients of EU funds, will be open and transparent. Thank you.